What is up, boils and ghouls? Welcome to the Horror Feed. I'm your host, Jeff. Joining me today is the ever awesome and quite lovely Beatrice Boepple. Welcome to the show, Beatrice. Thank you for being on.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here.
We appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't butcher the last name. I think I got it right.
You actually said it pretty well. Bupley. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. um, First things first, welcome to the show. I wanted to ask you, I know you were sick not long ago. How are you feeling? Like, how's everything doing with you now?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm much better. It was a miserable head cold. My husband got it first. He tested for COVID. It wasn't COVID. I ended up getting it. I tested it. It wasn't COVID. My son then got it. He tested it. It wasn't COVID. It wasn't, and with him, he had a really bad throat too. So he tested for strep throat. I don't know. It wasn't any of those. I guess it was just a cold. And you know what's so funny is since COVID, like for 2 years, I guess we just never got sick. Like this was the first time we got sick since COVID. So we were, we forgot what miserable colds are like, So we were very fortunate, but it was lousy for about 4 or 5 days, and now it's gone. Yay!
I am definitely glad you and your family's doing better. And yeah, it's weird because like everybody now, no matter what kind of sickness you get, if it's the flu or a cold, everybody automatically assumes COVID now.
I know, right?
But I'm very happy that you guys were all okay and that it wasn't COVID.
Yeah, thank you. And I know it's one of those things where nowadays, like if you cough in public, everyone's like,
Oh my
well,
God, it's COVID.
no, it's not COVID. It's not COVID. I will throw in there. I lived in Japan when I was a little girl, and this was way back in the 60s, and nothing to do with COVID. It was just the way it was in Japan, maybe because it's an island, a small population. If you had a cold, you wore a mask. It was just what everyone did. We'd walk around with masks. If you had a cold, you wore a mask. And, science has proven that, whether you feel masks, I know there's lots of anti-maskers and so forth, but science has proven that masks will help limit the amount of colds, for example, And you think about it, like just they did say there were so few colds and flus during the past 2 years with this COVID. And I think it was people washing their hands more, covering their mouth, because in the past people just, and cough all over each other, And I remember always also seeing people that would cough, and I guess they were trying to be polite, but they coughed into their hand, which is such a no-no because then they take that same hand and touch the doorknob that you're about to touch or touch the produce, and all that stuff. So I
Exactly.
think hopefully we learned a little better hygiene, And I honestly wouldn't mind if by choice, so the anti-mask people don't get upset. If it's your choice, I would hope that going forward, if people have a really bad cold or flu or whatever, if you're all run-nosed in Germany, throw on a mask. I don't know, it's just nicer when you're in a, especially in like a grocery store. I just prefer somebody masking up if they're going to be coughing and sneezing over my food. Anyway, enough about that.
No, that's it's a good point though. Like when we were growing up, like in my generation, it was all playing outside in the mud. If you got a bee
Right.
sting, you slap mud on it, drinking from the hose. And but yeah, like Japan, like forever it seems, have always worn masks, and it was always anytime somebody had any remote kind of sickness. And that's not a bad idea, honestly. Like there's times where if I get sick, I will put on a mask just because it's the proper thing to do now, especially now, like more so now with COVID, with how scared everybody is of COVID. It just makes sense, to wear the mask and do your
Mask.
thing, do your part
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. Also, and then there was something interesting in Japan where they also like if you've ever had strep throat, I mean, you know how miserable it is. We take
Oh
it for
yeah.
granted. 99% of our lives we walk around taking it for granted that we don't have painful throats unless you have a disease or something. But once you get a sore throat, a really bad sore throat or strep throat, you're like, oh my God, I can't swallow. And you realize how nice it was not to be in agony. Well, I remember in Japan, anytime you'd get a cold and your throat started to hurt, you'd go to the nurse and she'd take like a Q-tip, except it was like a for monsters. Like it was a giant Q-tip or, like one of those bottle washer size things and dip it in probably iodine. I mean, it tasted like what iodine smells like. Your generation, you might not even know what iodine is. But anyway, they just like shove it down our throats and you'd be gagging and it would be the worst thing ever. But it was gone. I'm sure it killed every good germ too, you know, but it killed all the bad germs, and your cold would be stopped dead. I mean, it was amazing. I do think about that whenever I have a sore throat. I think, oh, I wish I had that gaggy thing from Japan from the 60s. I don't know if they do it anymore. But also something else you said though is true that, you know, we always have to find that balance between keeping clean so that we're not spreading it to others is what I think about. But you're right though. We can't be overly clean. We can't be always washing and stuff because we need to drink from the hose and get in the mud because we need to have natural immunities. We can't live in this ultra bacteria free environment because then we're going to have the worst immune system. So play in the
Exactly.
mud, but if you catch a cold, just cover up. So
Exactly. And that's one of the things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that my mom was like, go outside, go play. Like she would not let me stay inside on the days off when I was a kid. When there was
right,
no school, she was like, get your ass outside, go play.
yeah,
And I'm thankful for that because it did, like, it gave me immune. Like, I'm in the security field, I'm constantly around homeless people, and like everybody was like, how have you not caught COVID yet? And it's like I have a really high, like really good immunity system, I guess. Like, but
right,
I've been lucky.
yeah. Well, I guess you got a good immunity because you're in front of all these people all the time. Your little audience there,
Yeah, all the little guys. Thank you,
all the
Zoom,
little
for that.
guys. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to some of the questions. I've had people messaging me, wanting me to ask you some questions, so we're just going to jump into it.
All righty.
The first question, and this is one that I personally ask everybody that's been on the show so far, is so everybody knows you are Amanda Krueger. You are Amanda Krueger from the Dream Child. And so, how did you come about getting that role like this? Because this is an iconic role. It really is. Like, and a lot of people like miss that Amanda Krueger officially, technically debuted in Dream Warriors
Yeah,
as Sister Mary Helen, I believe is what the name was.
yeah,
And so they brought back the character in the Dream Child as the younger mother with what everything that happened with Freddie. And in my opinion, that was definitely more impactful than what the original one was in Dream Warriors. So how did you come into the role of, Freddie's mom, Amanda Krueger?
yeah. Well, I slept with a producer and the director and Robert England. No, I'm just kidding. No, seriously. What had happened was I had just moved to LA from Vancouver, and at the time in Vancouver, when I left Vancouver, Canada, I was pretty famous in Canada at the time. I was sort of the it girl. I had starred in two Canadian films. I think I don't know if you can see it behind me, Matinee and
Matinee.
Quarantine.
Yep.
Yeah, and Quarantine. So those are, low budget Canadian films. But I had starred in them and I had done quite a bit of work. So I was really coming up in my career in Canada. But then, for various reasons, I moved to LA. Um, Romance. No, I moved to LA where I was a nobody. Like, nobody knew, hadn't heard of Beatrice Boepple. However, I did land an amazing agent. She actually was a personal manager, and she only had three clients. It was the Sheen family: Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen, and their daughter, Martin's daughter, Renee Estevez,
Mm-hmm.
who is, sister to Emilio, who
Emilio.
who I played his wife in Stakeout.
Yep.
So that kind of, I think that's how I got introduced to her. And because Quarantine was screening at that time in LA, I invited her through Emilio to come see the screening, and she signed me on. So I was very, very fortunate to land that right away. And one of the first auditions she set me up for was this thing, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I had heard I mean, I knew what Nightmare on Elm Street was. I'd seen the original.
Yeah.
But I will be honest, at that point, so number one, I had seen in college. Yeah, it would have been college, my last year, 84, right? So I was finishing college. Then 85, 86, 87. So number two and number three and number four, I was doing my career. I was in all my own films. I was very, very active as an actor. And I never saw the films. Horror wasn't my first thing. So I just had never seen them. I got cast in it and I was like, um, I went to the audition, and I will tell you this: it was amazing for me. It was the one and only time that I went cold to an audition and got hired on the spot, which is so unusual
Oh
because
wow.
normally you always get a call back if they're interested, and then from the callback they narrow it down to maybe depends on the production. By the time the first call back, it might be 10, narrowed it down to 10 people. Then if you get called back again, then it's like usually only 5 or so. And then you might do a screen test, in which screen test usually is down to like 3 people. They're pretty much sure they want one of you 3, and they're testing you off of your co-star or the person that's going to be your parent or your child or whatever, and just seeing who looks best. And by that point, they know you can do the job, but they just have to make the decision which actor they want. So, but we didn't do any of that. We sat there. I was with Stephen Hopkins and with the production team, and I think was the writer. I'm trying to think who all was in that room. It was 32 some years ago. But all I remember was in the audition, I was kind of joking around with them, and honestly, had I known how big and how iconic Freddy Krueger was and would become, and how iconic the film franchise was, maybe I would have been really nervous. But I just wasn't. Like, it was something I'd seen, and I just hadn't really thought about it. And I had been auditioning quite a bit at that point, so I was pretty relaxed. And I'm out with them, and I was like, oh, I can do spooky voices, and I said, and I can do creepy. I can sing, and I was talking to the director about how it's, to me, the creepiest thing is little children's nursery rhymes, which is why that thing with the girls, the skip roping girls, works so well. And I think we're all scared of like creepy little girls or dolls or clowns or things that are supposed to be innocent or happy, and there's some evil twinge to them. Those are the scariest things. And I had been in played nuns so many times for some odd reason, maybe because I'm very holy looking, or my socks are very holy. I don't know which it is, but I end up playing nuns. And I was in a play called Once a Catholic, where I learned a lot of really traditional Catholic chant songs in Latin. So I sang one for the director, like, Qui cum patre et filio simul adoratur. And I was singing this whole thing, and I said, imagine it like with echoes and, creepy. And it's actually in the film. I'm not credited, but when I watched it, I heard my singing. I know it's me. They actually did use it in one
That's
scene.
awesome.
But so I think we just had this rapport, and then they're like, okay, you're it. I don't know if they told me right there that day. I'm trying to remember, but I knew by that evening. My agent called me for sure. If they hadn't already told me on the spot, my agent called me and said they gave it to you. You're Amanda Krueger. And I just remember being like, whoa, okay, wow. And it never dawned on me that, Robert's older than me. I mean, it doesn't, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because, sometimes some of my fans are like, ooh, how could they have you play his mom? You're young. I'm like, well, because it was a flashback. She
Exactly.
was, she's giving birth. He's a baby. It's not like old Robert coming out, even though he does, even though he grows up to be himself pretty quickly. But,
Yeah.
And I was 27 at the time. I don't know. I maybe looked younger, but I was actually, getting close to 30. So it was pretty reasonable.
You
But
really did look young. Like I honestly thought you were like in your early 20s when I first saw that movie. And like, I'm a
yeah,
kid, but even like to this day when I watch it, I'm like, she couldn't have been no more than like mid 20s at max.
yeah, yeah. So, well, I mean, right now, some people don't believe I'm 60. So, who knows?
There's
I
no
think
way in hell you're 60.
I am. Yeah, I am.
Don't
I turned
lie.
60 this year.
Don't
What's that?
lie.
I'm not lying. I was born in 1962. Do the math. But,
You look great for being 60. Like I'm mind blown. I had no idea you were 60 years old.
oh, thank you. Yes, 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 I'm an old lady, but I've done yoga my whole life, and and I think honestly, like the skin and stuff, although granted, I have, with Zoom, they have this thing that's like refresh or update your appearance or something. Like, I think there's a setting on it if you look at your Zoom, something like that, like
Oh yeah, like you
make you
could
look
do it
better
sort of
kind of
like
thing.
lighten it up or something.
Yeah, I think it's, so, but whatever. Yeah, but I do have good skin. And I think it's because I'm part Chinese. My grandfather was Chinese.
Yeah.
So I think that gives me good skin, and I don't have hair, and my hair doesn't go gray. I think I have 2 gray hairs. That's it. So
So
anyway,
yeah,
so it's,
I'm 36 and I'm getting grays in my beard, and I'm like, oh no.
oh dear. Oh, it'll make you look distinguished. But
Hopefully.
but yeah, so that's how I got the role of Amanda Krueger, and I do think it was, the connection with the director, and and it was funny too because we were playing around with the idea, and I guess probably because they wanted it to be a young actor, and maybe I was a little older, but because I could look young, it worked out that I had a bit more maturity that, for the role to be, because she needs to be a good, grounded, solid role. I mean, I was the same age as most of my co-stars who were all the teenage kids.
Exactly.
Like I'm like 2 years older, I think, than like Lisa and Danny and that, whatever. Like around, we're all around the same age. But in any case, yeah, no, it was pretty fun to and also to explore even in the audition as we're reading the lines, they were trying to figure out like, well, is she dead? Is she not dead? Is it a ghost? Because I said, how do you want me to deliver the lines? Like, should I be coming across as a ghost? I mean, like, what am I? And I don't
No,
think they really knew, and who knows? Because we're this sort of born again weird realm people, Freddie and I. Are we dead? Are we alive? Who knows? We're alive in those moments, so
exactly.
yeah, yeah. But yes, I get to give birth to the Freddy Krueger. Pretty wackadoodle thing to think about. It's like, yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned how you didn't really like you knew about Nightmare on Elm Street. You've seen like you saw the original and everything else, but so when you got this part, like seeing the some of the stuff that you're gonna have to do, like some of the like practical effects, like the Freddy arm popping out of you, and the little I don't know how to explain the baby. I kind of like demon child type
My little
thing.
demon child. He's so
Like
damn cute.
everybody loves it. Like
I do
I've
too.
been trying to find a puppet of it because it's awesome. But
Yeah.
how did that
You
like
can
how did
buy
you feel being able to like interact, like being able to do things like that? Like how was it working with Robert and Lisa and just everybody else on the set?
It was fabulous. I mean, just it's a great group of people, and anybody who's met any of the cast, like, maybe I think most people in horror are pretty darn nice people that because I'm starting to meet more and more at other franchise people, from other franchises at these conventions, and it's like, God darn, we're all nice folk. Like we're all really nice, down to earth people, the people in horror film. I haven't even met, of course, all the Elm Street people, but I'm starting to meet people outside of number five. I'm quite close to Mark Patton now. This weekend I'll be meeting Kim
He's
Myers. So the
amazing.
two, yeah, really, really nice folk. I had met Sean from what was Sean in number four, right?
I
No,
believe
five,
so.
or no, maybe the one after me.
I'm trying to remember who Sean played.
He was one of the leads, and he was the one that thought that Freddie was his dad.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would be Freddy's Dead. That was the one
yeah,
right after you.
right after me.
Yeah, that one
I
has
have met,
Lisa Zane in it as well.
yeah, and I've met Ken Sagos. I've met uh um come on, brain, another BB. She's a sweetheart. But okay, I don't want to embarrass myself by I'm just terrible with names. But anyway, but everybody I've met from Elm Street just are darn right nice people. Like we hang out, after the shows when we go for meals or stuff. Everyone's just down to earth and sweet. I really love it, and I just love everybody in Elm Street Five. Just a really nice bunch. Um, I'm hoping I'm hoping that Mark will start joining us again because he hasn't done any of the circuit. He came out and did a few conventions when we were most of us were discovered after we did Never Sleep Again,
Yes.
because we'd all sort of been in hiding. We all went to do other things. And it was for Never Sleep Again that they really made the effort to track us all down. And, and I've said this on other interviews, but it was so funny because it was Toy Newkirk who had the interview right before me. And then when we were sitting there waiting for my turn, she said, how come I never see you at the cons? And I was like, cons? I had no clue what she was talking about. I didn't know what she meant, cons. Like, what's a con? Like a convict? Like, what the hell? And she's saying, no, con, like a horror con, a convention. And I'm like, oh, there's such a thing? I had no clue. Really had no clue. So that's why most of us, a few people in LA continue, they've been doing conventions from the start, but a lot of us have never done them until more recently. So I've only just this past year started to really get into it. I did like two way back then when we first were discovered. Then I just went back to raising my kids. And now that my kids are both in school, and I'm empty nester. I've been focusing back on this, on um, my role as Amanda Krueger, interacting with the fans, getting to know them, getting to know the whole horror realm, and the unbelievable amount of talent in this horror community. You know,
It's
the
true.
people that are horror fans are also all the artists that, do amazing stuff, whether they worked on the films themselves or are just doing fan art. I'm just blown away by the amount of talent. And I got to tell you, it's you guys, it's the fans that have drawn me into starting to really love this, as certainly the franchise. Like I really love Nightmare on Elm Street, and so I bought the box set, sat through, watched all of them, and like everybody else, we have scenes that we like better than others, things that we like better than others, but overall, I was very impressed by the whole theme running through the Elm Street franchise, and what did surprise me was how they really weren't so scary, or at least not what I thought. Because when you see something when you're really young and you get terrified, if you continue to watch them, that's one thing. But if you just don't watch them again until you're an adult, and then you watch them, you're like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't so scary. And maybe because also I've been in it too, but they weren't. I just remembered that as being so much scarier than it was. But I'm rambling on and on. But I got to say, honestly, maybe it's because I'm in it, but I don't know if it was just because I'm in it. I really think I love number five. I don't know what the people's issue is with number five. I personally love the sets better than in any of them. Like I just thought I love that whole gothic look. It was just for number one was really amazing too
Like
because we didn't
dark,
know.
gritty.
It's dark and we don't know what's coming, and Freddy is all new to us. And
Yep.
each of the next ones each have really good stories and good merit on their own, for sure. I'm not putting down any of them. There's something I love about every single one of them. But in terms of the overall atmosphere and that kind of stuff, I don't know. I thought five was phenomenal. I really loved it, and then and I thought most of the performance was pretty solid, and the kills were creative. I mean, whether you
Oh yeah.
found them scary or not, they were really creative. I was like, wow, So anyway,
No, I have to
go ahead.
agree
You
with
ask
you
a
on
question.
that.
I keep babbling.
No,
What's that?
I love the babble away.
La, la, la.
I agree though. Like I completely agree with you. Like I love, like for me, the first one will always be like the best, just because it's what started
Yeah,
Freddy. But
yeah,
like I agree with you with what you said. Like everyone has something good about it, and I personally, I love part five for many reasons. Like it has one of my favorite characters in it, with the guy who's like obsessed with comic books and all that.
right.
Like because
Yeah,
that's
Mark. Yeah,
me in a
yeah,
nutshell. Like I love comics, and that whole Super Freddy scene was just freaking amazing. Just everything in that movie, like it's cool, and it brings something different because like in all the movies prior, they're dreaming about Freddy.
right,
This time, Lisa Wilcox's character Alice isn't dreaming about Freddy. It's not her doing it. It's the
right,
unborn baby doing it,
right.
which brings in a whole new element, which I thought was really cool. Something we haven't seen before in the Nightmare franchise.
Yeah,
And like I think it was about a year or two ago, we did a heroine, like who we think are the best survivor girls. And
right.
I say this all the time, aside from like Sydney Prescott from Scream, for me, Alice from Nightmare on Elm Street, because she's the only person in franchise history to beat him twice back to
Right,
back and not
right,
die.
right. Yeah,
So, but no,
yeah.
like I
Pretty.
completely agree with you. Like I think five is awesome. I think the only one that people really, really hate is the remake,
Yeah, yeah. That
which
that. Yeah,
that's just not good. Like I love Jackie Earl Haley. He did a great job. Like if that was a better script and not what they did, it probably would have been a lot better of a movie.
yeah.
But yeah, no, but no, I
And who can step into Robert's shoes? I mean, that's probably an
exactly.
impossible task. It doesn't matter how talented the actor is. When people have grown to really love and identify one person, you just can't do it. Maybe when we're all long gone and dead, and if some, new generation wants to, that's sort of different, but not when the actor's still alive and still able to do it. I think it's just going to be too hard. You're never going to win over the fans. It's just impossible. They have a loyalty and whatever too. So, and I haven't
Exactly.
seen it. I got to see. That's the one I have not seen yet. I will. I will see it just so I know what I'm.
It's definitely worth a watch for a first time.
Right.
If you go into it just not thinking about any of the other ones,
Right.
Like I said, Jackie Earl Haley, he does a great job. I love the man. I've met the man. I have even told him, it's like, you know what, the movie was garbage. You were not. Like,
Right.
you did a great job for what you had, and trying to fill those shoes. Like, this isn't Jason.
Yeah.
This isn't like you put on the hockey mask. Everybody did it,
Yeah.
and everybody knows Kane Hodder did it the best.
Right.
But this isn't Jason. It's not even Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Like, Freddy is so iconic because every movie was always Robert Englund from day
Yeah.
one to
Yeah.
that remake. It was always Robert Englund,
Yeah.
and so I don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, the franchise is iconic. You are a part of this iconic franchise, which is amazing. And you mentioned conventions, so this is actually something else I wanted to touch up on because it's kind of a two-parter thing. One is like more of a announcement statement type thing, and the other one's going to be a question. So I don't know if you've heard about it, but Texas Frightmare Weekend is
Uh-huh.
actually coming up. It's at the end of this month, and there's
Okay.
a Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors whole reunion there. Like, I think the only people that's not there is Lawrence Fishburne for obvious reasons, and oh my god, what's her name? Arquette, Patricia Arquette.
Right.
Those are the only two that aren't there.
Right.
And so it's going to be awesome. And like the last time I met Robert Englund was a few years ago at Frightmare, and
Uh-huh.
like I mentioned you to him. We talked, and he said he loved you and that you did a great job. And so you're talking about conventions, and so I kind of want to ask, is there any chance, like, what conventions, if any, are you doing this year? And then we got to get you at Frightmare. Like, we really got to get you at Frightmare. It's like the biggest thing, going, and it's
Yeah.
in Texas. It's amazing. Lloyd's an amazing guy. So,
I would love to. I would love to. And it's funny because I've never been to Texas, and it's funny. I've traveled all over the world, and I've traveled to the both coasts of the U.S. extensively, up and down the two coasts. But the Central America, all the countries in between, countries, many of the states in between, I have not had a chance. I haven't gone to yet. North Dakota, because my uncle lives or did live there until he died. Uh, Anyway, but yeah, I would love to go to Texas, and I would love to go to Texas Frightmare. Um, this year, so the conventions, well, it's so funny because I'm doing New Jersey Horror Con next weekend. That's in
yeah.
Atlantic City, the showboat, and that will be fun because it's me and Wit, who Jacob the Dream Child.
Yep.
So the two of us from 5, and Kim and Mark from 2. So the 4 of us will be there together for the Elm Street contingent, and I'm so looking
Awesome.
forward to that. And I also, I don't know if anyone's going to book it or purchase it, but this guy, this amazing costume designer in LA, is building me, and he's going to ship it out tomorrow, supposedly, knock wood, so it gets here on time. A whole Amanda Krueger costume for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like he's making, because I had this one I got for $12 on eBay or something like that. It's sort of like floppy little you know what do you call this material, nylon or whatever, and it's a nun's outfit. It still works, people
Yeah.
still like it, but this is like he's doing this whole cool thing. It's going to be beautiful. So I will be dressing as Amanda too for that one, for some of the um, fans who like that dressed up. So I'm doing that one. But unfortunately, the only other one I'm allowed to announce, which I've announced many times, is the Hampshire Horror Con this fall in England, in East Hampton, in November. But I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4 so far, 4 other ones besides those 2. Actually 5, and they're right here. But I can't tell you which ones because
Yeah.
I've
Keep it
got
hush hush until everything's
well, I've got the contracts. It's funny but until it's in the contract. Like, you can't announce it until they announce you
until
because
they do.
that's
Exactly.
they all have their reasons. But I will say, I will be in Florida this year. I will be in way, way, way upstate New York. I'll be sort of in south central Pennsylvania.
Nice.
But so far not yet Texas, and not yet Chicago. And there's some, and I will tell you, and I want the fans to know this too, um, and this is true of all actors. Like, we can't just be in any convention we want to be in. We need to be invited, unless we're
Exactly.
willing to pay our own way and do all that stuff. But a lot of us, are also paying for our kids' college or whatever through these things. It is our work as well. As much as we'd love to meet the fans, we can't really afford to fly out on our own steam and everything. So it depends on, you know, on the convention, the people organizing the convention. And sometimes it's just a matter of, if enough fans ask for you, then they get interested and they'll invite you. Um,
Yep.
it also depends on, who they're having, um, and there's a tricky thing. I had a long talk with Robert Englund's agent, really nice guy, Scott, and he was saying that when Robert is booked, Robert's the main deal. We all know, of course, Robert's the main deal. If you get Robert Englund at your convention, he's going to be,
You're definitely going to pretty much sell a lot.
yeah, you're going to sell a lot, and he's your headliner. At least he's absolutely, without doubt, headliner for the Elm Street franchise.
Oh yeah.
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 And then they generally want to, most conventions, unless it's just a really specialized focus convention, they, want to have a few people from each franchise, or at least a few different franchises, to get more fans in, right? So they need headliners from each franchise. And then it's a matter of budget and timing and space, how many others they can invite. And generally speaking, when they work with Robert, that's a big part of their budget, because of course he commands a lot more than the average actor. And they're dealing with his agent anyway. So they generally will go with, if they're going to add extra Elm Street people in, they generally go with the ones that he represents. And, so if you're represented by somebody else, your chance of being booked at the same shows with Robert, even though you're in the same franchise, is limited. It hasn't happened for me yet, but I mean, I've really only been back in the circuit for a year. So, I think it will happen, and I think it will be like an amazing thing both for us and for the fans to have mom and son. I just think it would be a really cool
That's
thing to do,
why.
right? To have the mother's son, and
that photo op would be amazing too.
Wouldn't
like
it?
being able to get that duo photo op, I would pay for that in a heartbeat.
Wouldn't it? Like I totally think the fans would just love it, and it's just it's something so iconic, and and every fan has, of course, their favorite kill, the victims or the survivors and stuff like that. And there's lots of wonderful characters, and throughout the franchise, there's so many fun and interesting people. And most people kind of want to collect everybody, but there is only one Freddy, and there is only one Amanda Krueger. There were two, but the original, Nan, rest in peace. She's no longer alive.
True. And technically, she wasn't even Amanda technically until like the very, very, very end of the movie, when they show her name and then Amanda Krueger on the bottom. So technically, I mean, you could say she wasn't.
Well, no, I don't even know if technically you could, because she is Amanda Krueger, in that Amanda Krueger was this woman born. Her name was Amanda Krueger. Her parents were Krueger. And then when she took her vows to become a nun, she took the name of Sister Mary Helena. And so she still had her street name was Amanda Krueger, and her, right? But it was Sister Mary, Helena. And I'm actually, which brings me to my book. Do you know about my book?
I actually don't know about your book. I don't know who does or who doesn't.
Okay. So I will tell you guys. Yeah. So you guys, so I spent the past year writing, it's called The Krueger's Curse, Nightmare Before Elm Street. And I finished. It's the novel's written, and I have artwork coming. I have almost all the artwork already in, but two artists, Stephen P. Hughes. He's a Canadian artist, and he's the one that did this image of Amanda.
That is amazing.
And and look at Freddy. There's just a little bit of red.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can tell it's me. Like it, I just, when I found this online a few years ago, and I was like, whoa, I just loved. Let's see the face. I don't know. There's
gorgeous,
right? And it's so simple, and yet to me, it really captured so much of what Amanda was for me. And not for nothing. I mean, this character's been with me to some degree. For 32 years, I've carried Amanda around. I played her. She's been a part of me. I've been getting fan mail for the past 32 years, as Amanda. So she's always present in me, and so she's always kind of in my mind. And to me, she was such a tragic character, and why did she become a nun? And as a nun, then why did she give up Freddy? And then what was her relationship with Freddy? Like, we know that he was raised, eventually by, played by Alice Cooper, this nasty evil man that was beating him, but he obviously knows that Amanda's his mom. Like, he knows it's her. It's not like he doesn't know. So if he knew that
Exactly.
that's his mom, what was their relationship? What went on during his growing up? That always kind of haunted me. And when I saw that picture of her holding him, it captured exactly what I was feeling as an actor, as a performer, in the scene when I'm coming down the stairs at the end of the movie. I'm coming down the stairs I'm telling, the dream child, I'm telling Jacob, unleash the power he's given you. And I know that I'm going to take Freddie back, but I'm doing that to destroy him. And even though
Mhm.
my character's driven by the need, she knows that she has to stop her son. She knows he cannot go on killing. She, as a nun and as just a human being, can't let this go on. But she loves him, and I hope it showed. Like, I think it does. I just watched it again recently. I was like, I think I nailed it, because you see
Definitely.
in my eyes, like, I'm not happy. She's not smiling. She's not like,
Yeah, and
get
you can
back
see
here,
like
Freddie.
tears and emotion.
Yeah, and because even then, even though I wasn't a mom, and my God, if I played it now, oh, forget it. Like, I get teared up even thinking about it. Like, there's something, with mothers, unless they're disturbed, which some of us do have, not everybody's had a wonderful mom. We all have issues with our parents, but generally speaking, it's just in a woman's instinct. When you give birth and when you've carried this child inside you for 9 months, it's a part of you. And, like, right, my sons are away. And even though the house is so much cleaner and quieter, and I can keep their rooms nice, and there's way less laundry and stuff, and sometimes a lot less angst and tension, when they come home, it's like, there's this feeling of completeness that you just never have when they're not there. It's like a part of you is living outside of you, and that's what it technically is. We've given birth, you guys were inside us, and now you're walking around, and that's our gift or curse to the world, is what we release onto the planet. But our children are always a part of us, and so Freddy Krueger, for all his everything he's become, is a part of her. And the book really explores this, and it explores her. It's from Amanda Krueger's point of view. It
Oh
gives some of
wow.
the history of Freddy. Well, it gives some of, Amanda's history, which is not pretty. It's not, it's kind of R-rated book. The
Yeah.
abuse was throughout the family. Um, and then when she has to give him up, which she only does because she's a nun, obviously they're not going to let her keep a baby.
Yeah.
Nuns don't walk around nursing babies. She
Especially
ends
under
up,
the circumstances in which she had said baby.
yeah. And so she has to give him up, but she stays in contact, and you'll see, if you'll see in the book what happens. And I introduce the father, this they said, some people say adopted, but technically he was the foster father. And for some reason with Alice Cooper, they never showed a wife, if you notice. There was no mom. So in this
Yeah.
story, you find out why that is, and you find out why Alice Cooper is the way he is, and how that affects Freddie. And then the relation. So it's really about the relationship between Freddie and his mom. And it goes all the way through till he's killed, and she locks herself up in the asylum and is killed, dies. That's where I take it up to. And then like number 5 and all that is not in it. It's the history bringing up to that
Essentially
point.
like a prequel of everything.
It's of everything, and you learn about his sweater, and you learn where his hat came from. You learn all
Oh
kinds of
man.
stuff. Yeah, so it's pretty. I think it's pretty cool, and you know, and I've tried, and if anyone's listening, and people know, I've talked to so many people who have had part in the film, um, and I've talked to legal people. I've talked to all kinds of people, and for some reason, am really not succeeding in getting through to Wes Craven Estate for the book. So, and it's a story that I really want to tell, and it's a story that I think fans really want to know. So, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to be releasing it as fan fiction, and you're you're paying for the autograph because it'll be personally autographed by me. But I'm not going to be like technically selling the book because I don't know else how to do it. I don't know really how to release it without that because Mark has done his Jesse's lost or found lost journals.
Yeah, I
Found
believe it was
journals.
like Found Journals or something like that.
Found journals, yeah.
Yeah,
And that technically would be run under the same thing, and he produces them himself, and it's our tribute to the stories of these characters. We've played these characters and we love them, and we have a story that we want to tell. Um, and is it right? Is it wrong? Like, there's no one to dispute. Wes Craven, unfortunately, as we know, has passed on. Um, and he developed these characters, but obviously you don't have time as when you're writing a screenplay, unless it comes from a novel, you don't give the entire history of every character in the movie,
exactly.
so, but I think fans would like to know. And if, and some people reading it might say, "Whoa, that's not what I pictured. That's not what's lived in my mind." And it's not to offend anyone, but it's the reality of it's the character that I created when I played her. And what can I say?
Exactly.
I played her. So that's the Amanda that's the Amanda you get. So if you want to hear what I think, my history of Amanda, you buy my book, which will hopefully come out this fall. And then the illustrations. So I've got this. So Stephen P. Hughes, who did this, is doing most of the illustrations in the book.
Ah,
Um, and then I have a few um, full full page ones that are being done by Joe St. Pierre. I don't know if you're into comics. He's done.
oh,
He's
I love
Yeah,
comics.
yeah. So he for Marvel, he's done or was it DC? Oh, forgive me. Which one's Batman? DC?
Batman is DC.
Okay. So he's done Batman for DC, but Venom,
Venom
is
is
that
Marvel.
Marvel? So he's done Venom for Marvel. He's done a bunch of. Oh, or is it Spider-Man? Oh my God.
Spider-Man,
Anyway,
Venom, they're all Marvel.
I'm sorry, Joe St. Pierre. He's just a
He's very talented.
he's very, very talented. He's doing some of the illustrations for me. I haven't seen the sketches how they've come out. So basically, I wrote to the artist, you know, these are the illustrations I want. I want a half page of this, I want a quarter page of this, or a full page of this, and we'll see how it's depicted. And um, yeah, but I'm very excited by it. I think most fans will really enjoy it. I think it's a pretty easy read. They're not long. They're like 90 page. It's like 90 pages. Um, and it'll
It's
have,
almost
like I said,
about the size of a graphic novel almost.
yeah. I almost thought about doing a graphic novel. However, there was just too much I wanted to say. Like
Yeah.
it is more storyline. Um, but it really fleshes out childhood Freddie and childhood Amanda and their relationship. And to be fair, childhood Freddie from Amanda's perspective as the mom sees him. Like, I don't give her knowledge that she doesn't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like as a mom, she doesn't know everything that's going on with him, like we all, and
But
so
she can like sense
she,
something.
yeah, she senses stuff, and she's aware of what she's aware of. And
Yeah.
as news comes out, it comes out, but she's basically seeing, all the teas. And the other thing that I did was I made sure that I followed all 8 movies, any reference to Freddie or Amanda or their childhood, the growing up, any of the family story, I kept to it. I had to iron out some of the discrepancies because anyone who's a fan knows that their continuity wasn't precise.
Yeah,
If you
to
really
say the
do
least.
yeah, if you do the math, it doesn't always add up. The dates just don't quite add up. I mean, we know that Amanda was locked in at Christmas. They've
Yes.
said, it was over the Christmas holiday, so he couldn't be born any other time than 9 months after that. So you do the
Looking
math,
at
and
summertime.
yeah, and things like that. So, and also her age. I mean, quite frankly, if you did, because of what we saw on the tombstone, and then the year that he was born, she actually would have been 34, I believe it was. 34. She would have been quite older than I was,
Yeah.
way younger than Nan Martin was, but way older than me. The age thing was funny because a fan wrote on my Facebook page last week, and I've been really trying, this year I'm focusing on reading. I interact with the fans and really talk with everybody. And
You really do.
he made this comment, and he showed a picture of Nan, and he said, "People seem to forget this was the original Amanda Krueger, and quite frankly, much more believable in that Beatrice Boepple was way too young. What did she have Freddie when she was 10?" And I was thinking, wait, dude, no, do the math. First of all, I was 27. But secondly, when we did the film, if they had used Nan, she was 62 years old that year when we filmed it. Like, that's, you can't have 62-year-old giving birth to a baby. Like that would be really creepy if she had been raped, and oh my God, that would just be a whole nother
Yeah,
realm.
that would have been interesting. An interesting take.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, talk about, you know, what do you call it? Continuity blooper, I suppose. I could see like if you had really liked, and I think Nan did a great job. Like she was a nice, kind of commanding, scary nun. It was different than I had played, and I had never seen it. Had I seen her performance first, had I even known it existed before I filmed mine, I don't know. I might have gone to the director and said, "Well, what do you want to do?" Because I die supposedly when I lock myself in that room. I'm still fairly young. So
Yeah,
how did I get old? Like how does the ghost suddenly become older than the character really was? So that's a funky thing. She like,
right.
you know, Nan was older when she played that, and though Nan, in her age that she was when she was portraying Amanda, might have been more accurate to be Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund's um, mom, right? Had they both lived all the way through, they
Yeah,
died. Like they died both fairly young, and they come back as ghosts, and you can't really see Freddy's age because he's all burnt up. And Amanda, you see this sort of younger one. So,
exactly.
truth be told, that was actually that was more the continuity blooper if they'd really followed the story, because how did she age so much if she died, locked herself in did she magically live in that tower until she turned 50, 60? So anyway, be it as it may, I think as fans, we forgive those things. We just love what we love about it, and at least in terms of portrayal and stuff, you know, um, yeah, I don't have an issue that they were, two separate things. But I am grateful that I had not known that Amanda had been portrayed before. Had I known it when I was cast, I would have been all nervous. Like I would have watched number 3, I'd have tried to match Nan, and I would have, you know, done a different. It would have been a different Amanda,
Yeah.
because I didn't really see any kind of love or remorse in that Amanda.
She was
She was
more
just
of a,
she, she was just
just
commit. She was just trying to warn people, like
exactly.
which is not out of character. Amanda would do that. She would definitely warn. She doesn't want her son or anybody. She was a nun. She was a caring person. She didn't want people being hurt and killed. But I didn't quite feel the love for Freddie in that
Yeah.
portrayal. So it is what it
No,
is.
and it's awesome that we got like two different portrayals. We got the one who's just like, get rid of this bastard child, and then your version, which was more, caring. It was like not hatred for him, but like you were hurt. Like you could
Yeah.
tell that your character was like disappointed that you had to do this, but it was like the right thing to do
Right.
for the reasons. And speaking of that book, like one of the things I've been saying this since I've been blue in the face for years, a prequel to
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street would have been amazing. Like I think that's what a lot of people, and I completely agree with you on that. I think a lot of people want that prequel, and being able to read it like that would be phenomenal. So do you have any projection date? Because you said you're gonna turn into fanfic with the autograph and everything else. Do you
Yeah.
have a date in mind? Because I'm definitely gonna pick it up, and the moment it's out, I will spread the word like wildfire.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, the book is done. It's been through. I've edited it like 4 times. It was funny. I sent it out to a professional editor the first time, because I'm not a writer, and so, um, and it was funny because when I got it back, he was full of comments like, "Oh my God, this is so powerful. Oh my God, the fans will love that. Oh, this scene," he goes, "you either have lived through it yourself or you're a phenomenal writer because it's so believable." And it was like all full of praise, which was nice. I mean, for my ego, it was kind of nice, but it made me not really trust it because I'm like, I'm sorry, like everyone needs a good editor. And like, wasn't there anything you wanted to correct? The only corrections he made was like, some spelling and grammar and stuff. And I was like, hmm. And then so I went back after I paid for and did, had his edits. I went back and I'm like, dude, you missed this. Like, there's a lot of so I finally let my husband read it, and he's like, "You need to explain this more, and you need to explain that more." He hates my husband's not thrilled with it because he's not a fan, and he really doesn't like that. That it opens. Do you want to hear the opening?
I mean, if you're willing to, I would love it. I'm sure everybody who's going to see this would love it.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Oh, I'm excited
So,
now. I got to readjust.
all right. Get your popcorn.
Damn it, I don't have popcorn. I got my drink. I got my G Fuel. We're good.
Yeah. Here we go. So it's gonna and it's gonna have his family tree.
Oh, that's
Should I
awesome.
give the hint away? It's the artist who's doing it. It's going to be on Freddie's glove, the family tree.
Yes.
Anyway, so there's all kinds of stuff. But so I start off. Hee hee. Once upon a time. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So the prologue. How many times can one person die in a lifetime? I feel as though my heart has shattered beyond repair, only to be lifted back to hope and then crushed to a pulp again, over and over. Am I finally truly dead? My body certainly has died. There's no more movement, no more breath. Ah, that breath of life, the one thing that connects all living things, and that which, once gone, pronounces a once living being dead. Oh, but the dreams that come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil. The dreams, the painful dreams that burned through me with a fury of hellfire. Nightmares, really. Though, do I sleep? Who am I to be experiencing such things? What of me still exists to be able to remember, to see, to know, to feel? That's the prologue.
That is amazing. Wow. Ooh.
So then,
I'm pretty sure I got the goose. I got the gooses on my arm.
Woo, there you go. Oh yeah, look, your hair is standing. So the first chapter is called "Cursed from Birth."
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I'm just going to read you the very first paragraph of the first chapter. Is
by all means, please.
You think it began with my merciless rape in the Weston Hills Asylum? The 100 patients you all refer to as maniacs attacking and taking turns violating me? Nope. It went back. It went way back before I was even born. And it goes on. So,
ooh, so that is going to be good.
Yeah. So it goes through all the stuff that kind of, there's more than just his, I don't think it's giving too much away that there's mental illness in the family, there's tragedy in the family, and there's a lot of creepy, abusive crap that comes down in the Krueger family. So it's not just out of left field that Freddie turns out the way he does. And then, then there's the stuff that we all saw. He was obviously taunted and teased like crazy as a kid, but this separation from his mother, and it happens a few times, more than once, you'll find out in the book, and then it also even gets into why this Alice Cooper dude is the way he is with Freddie and what that does. And then why Freddie really takes to that beating. He kind of hints at it, but this really goes into the meat of all of that. And I don't know. I think it's powerful.
I just that little part right there, it is it already sets the tone for what's to come. And that I am looking forward to that. The moment it's available, I will be all over that. I will do a review on it, everything.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So so I think that's the way we're going to go. I was originally trying to go the public route, try to get my permissions. I don't want to rip anyone off. I'm not trying to steal any copyrighted stuff. We all know who Freddy Krueger belongs to. We know who Nightmare on Elm Street belongs to. And it's
Wes Craven's baby.
That's Wes Craven's baby. And, it's his. And I've been trying and trying and trying. I mean, the Never Sleep Again people. I've gone through Robert's wife. I've gone through all kinds of people. We're trying to get through, and I don't know. It's just not seeming to happen. And I want to get my book out sooner than later because they may, there has been some sort of talk about possibly doing a new one, which we all hope and pray for. And
I'd be happy.
I'd be happy too. And there's a possibility that it could be a prequel. A prequel's been spoken about, and so I want to get my story out first, just so people read that and have that in their mind, because I don't know what they're going to do. They might do an amazing thing, or they might not. It depends on who has it, but no one's lived Amanda. Nobody's carried her the way I have, so exactly. I want her version as the mother of this guy, and that the one thing, from what we saw in the creation of it, he did make it pretty clear that Freddie's scared of his mom. And,
Oh yeah.
He's scared of his mom, and he also doesn't kill her. I mean, his hand does come out at the end, but there's
scared of love, maybe.
maybe, and you'll find
Could
out
do that.
more. You'll find out more in this book. So I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited by it. The story is my heart. It's my ode to Amanda Krueger mainly, but to the whole Elm Street franchise and the story of this mother and son, um, which makes Freddie, because I feel, as a mom, of course, she Amanda Krueger takes all the blame. She
Yeah.
totally blames everything that he's become on herself, and it's something she's not able to forgive herself for. And I think, and that's why it's so tragic at the end. And she, when she's screaming in the hospital, give him back to me. And your birth is a curse on the whole of humanity, because it was. But she's
Yeah.
not. She's blaming her. She is blaming herself. Like, I cannot allow it to happen again. Because she can't let any more people be destroyed. She just can't. And I think, God, as a mom, holy crap,
That's
it's
powerful.
painful. And it's so
Exactly.
painful. Like when you have your own son, like even with my own boys, like I feel everything. My boys are like, Mom, just they're always embarrassed by me, but and they're horrified that I'm doing social media now. Like they look at my Instagram stuff, um, and they're like, "Oh God, Mom, please, you're this 60-year-old lady. Stop, because I discovered this. I don't know if you a follower on Instagram? If not, please follow me.
I'm pretty damn sure I am, but
Okay.
yeah, for anybody
Anybody
who's not following her, follow her. Do
follow
it.
me, because you know what? Having followers, it's not for any personal whatever. I need to have lots of followers because especially some of the bigger shows, unless they specifically want you, they look at your social media and they're like, "Oh,
Yep.
this one's got 10,000 followers, we'll book him. Oh, this one's only got 900? No way." They think I have
Exactly.
no fans and they think nobody will come to see me, so they don't book me. So if you want to see me, follow me, please. Or else I'll send Freddie. One,
She
two,
will
Freddie's
too.
coming for you. Yes, she will. You know it.
Nah.
But yeah, so on Instagram, I discovered the crazy app. See, Freddie's coming for you.
She buzzed out the glove.
Yes.
Uh
So follow me or else.
oh.
Um, but on Instagram, I found this crazy thing called Face Dance. Also, most ridiculous, crazy, wonderful app where you can take any photo. It can be a still or anything. Well, yeah, of course, photos are stills, duh. But you take a still, you take a photo and you
Yeah.
slap it in, and you can do it as a duet or you can do it as a single thing, and you can make them. It animates them. So I'm like singing stupid songs. So today I animated Baby Freddy. So if you want to see it, the most ridiculous thing, Baby Freddy singing this little song, and it's very irreverent.
That's
Diehard fans
awesome.
might, say, "What are you doing?" Making him with that stupid baby voice. But it's. I think it's funny. I'm having a hoot. So, and if anyone doesn't like anything I'm doing, just you have to wash it off. She's just a little old lady. She doesn't know what she's doing. I am. I,
I mean,
Facebook.
you have to have fun though, like
Oh, for
your
sure.
boys are probably just jealous because you're cooler.
Maybe. I wish that, I just want to make my boys proud, and they're just so funny. They're like, "Oh God, Mom." They're always rolling their eyes at me. With everything I do, it's just like, "Oh, Mom." And
I can almost
and my
guarantee
boys
they're
have
proud
not
of you.
watched Elm Street. My
They
boys have not
haven't?
watched my film. Nope.
What?
Isn't
That
that
should have been
mean?
timeouts if they're and they're younger. I'd be like, get your ass to the corner, watch my movie.
Well, when they were little, I didn't let them. I didn't
Oh,
want them to see. I didn't want them to see, like, in particular in 5. What I didn't want them to see was Erica getting her belly fed to herself.
oh yeah.
That's, I think it's an image that could really stick with you. When you're little, and I have images from childhood scares that just haunted me so badly growing up that my sister would tease me mercilessly with things that just terrified me. So I didn't want to do that to my kids. But then when they were older and I thought they were old enough to watch it, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to watch you giving birth." I'm like, "Boys, I don't know. Maybe they've secretly watched it. They just won't tell me. But they claim that they've never watched it.
Oh
Very
wow.
bad."
They
See,
need to. I mean,
all my sons, be it
crazy.
Freddie or my 2 mortal sons, they all are mean to their mommy.
Um, so let's get a few more things out of the way. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We've already gone over
Oh
what
boy,
I
yeah.
said, so I
I tell you,
apologize
I
for that.
babble. I always babble.
No, this honestly, I love this. This has been great. Like I love, like I said, babble away. I love it. They love it. Like getting to know the person, getting to know the person behind the characters is always great. Um, So another thing that I wanted to ask, people were messaging me asking me to ask this: are there any, aside from the book that we now know about and are eagerly awaiting, definitely, is there any other projects in the works currently for you?
Well, they are two. So, I made the conscious choice to stop my acting career when I became a mom. And I did that because I was a mom late in life. I was 37 or something when I had my first kid and 42 when I had my second. And I lost three in between. It was really hard. It was really a tough thing. And because I grew up with a mom who was career oriented to this day. She's 88 and she's got a huge career, but she's living in Nepal. But anyway,
Oh wow.
their career was always first. They really weren't very involved in our family life, and so I just decided that if I'm going to have kids, I'm going to be a 100% like mom, 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 really be involved. I think, which is one of the reasons my boys are like, get away, mom, because I was PTA president. I was, you know, the advancement coordinator for their Boy Scout troop. I, just totally involved with
That's
them.
amazing.
And I was there all the time, and they're just like dying to get away from home. but but now that they're gone, just this year is the first time I'm a empty nester. I'm going back into acting, and so yes, I there's two projects um, in the works. One is definitely happening. The other one, I'm still they there's some issues, but it's not a definite. But hopefully that will come out too. And Darn, there's so many things I can't say. I'm not allowed to say. This is very sad. But you know what? I will let you know when I can announce these things so that I can come back on, or at least you
Oh
can
yeah,
talk about
definitely. We
them.
would love to have you back.
And then there's also one fun collector's item that I think people know about. Horror Gods, these guys that make t-shirts and pins and stuff. They made a glow in the dark pin that's being premiered at the New Jersey Horror Con. They've only made 100. They get 100, and I mean, they get 50, and I get 50. I will sell mine with autograph, and they can sell their pins. And it's Amanda Krueger as the skeleton face. You know,
Hmm.
thank you. So I'm skeleton, and I'm holding baby Freddy, the burnt up little
Oh,
baby
that's
Freddy.
awesome.
It's a really cool pin, and it's glow in the dark. Like I think my face and baby Freddy are glow in the dark. So it's going to be a pretty cool pin. And already I think just from fans that have requested it, I think it's already probably sold out, and I know they want me to bring some to England, so they might do a second round of those. So any collectors out there, if you want a fun Elm Street item that you haven't had before, this I think will be a kind of fun thing to have in your collection. But so yeah, so that in the book, and then hopefully some film projects, which I think for a change I might not be a nun this time. Yes,
Hmm.
I might be a little wicked.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry. Ooh. Anyway, hello.
That was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, that would be awesome. Yeah, those pins, I might have to somehow figure out a way to get one from you. Have to DM you and work out a deal to where I can send you money or something, since I can't make it all the way out to the east just yet. But
Right.
those sound great.
Yeah.
So another question, I'll just bang these out as quickly as I can. So this is one that we ask everybody. This is like one of the big ones because this is directly to your fans.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to all of your fans who are going to be seeing this now, in the future, 10 years from now? Like, what would you like to say to all of them?
Well, as my Amanda in the movie, when the scene where she's discovered by Greta, I'm no, not Greta. Come on, what's her name? Who finds me in the
It's
tower?
oh my God,
Greta.
it's
Yeah,
her best
Alice tells
friend.
her best friend to.
Yeah, it's oh my God, I'm gonna kick myself in the head. I just watched this movie the other day.
Aren't we
Um,
awful?
I know, like I know it too. It's right at the
I
tip of
have
my
an
tongue.
excuse because I'm 60, so I'm terrible with names. I can't even remember my own kids' names. But
It's not Alice. It's
yeah. Well, anyway, so when I'm discovered in the tower and my face turns and says, "Thank you," in that skull face, that's what I want to say to my fans. My book is devoted, it's actually dedicated to the fans because,
awesome.
you know, other than Wes Craven, of course, who has to be thanked because it's his creation. But other than that, it's the fans that have kept us alive. There's just no way. Elm Street would not be, it would have been movies that were done in the 80s that, somebody once in a while might find somewhere. floating around and watch. It's the phenomenon that it is today. Robert is as famous as he is. We are all as famous as we are and in demand because of you, the fans who've loved the franchise, who's kept it alive with the hosting shows like this, talking to the actors, making artwork about us, making, this, that, and the other. It's like I'm so indebted to the fans. What I would say to the fans is thank you. Just thank you for keeping Nightmare alive. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for hating us, but because I know there's some love and hate depending on the shows, but even just discussing it, I mean, you're keeping it alive, and although I will say to the fans, don't ask an actor, which a lot you guys all do. Everyone asks us to join all your Facebook group private pages, and the funniest thing is when you ask, and I join, and I try when I have time to go and watch, listen to some of the discussions. Then you go rating our movies and put some of the ones down that we're in, and like that sucks. Like we're human too. So if you're going to bash the film that the person you've invited in, like don't do it on the group that you've invited them into. That's just mean. So have a heart. Everyone is 100% entitled to your opinions and your likes and your dislikes. And I will challenge anyone watching this, if you are an Elm Street fan but are one of those people that said, "Oh, number 5 sucks," watch it again now if you haven't. If you watch it recently and you still think it sucks, then that's fine. That's your opinion and everyone's entitled. But my guess would be that you probably hadn't watched it in a long time, and watch it again and let me know if you still think it sucks. Because I don't know. I don't know how you could think it sucks if you watch it as, everyone has their opinion on how they like Freddy to be, and sometimes if he starts to get a little too corny, if he's, making too many jokes, some people don't like that, or some people like the jokes, it depends on what they like. But just in an overall sense of the film and the whole thing, just watch number 5. And if you love Elm Street, I think you will love 5. I don't get that people don't like it. And if you don't like any of it, watch me. You can't not like me. My performance was good and solid. It was. So
no, your performance was great. And no, I definitely, I like that. I really do. By the way, it was Yvonne.
Yes, Yvonne.
It was Yvonne.
Yes, exactly.
So,
yeah. Kelly Jo Minter. Kelly Jo Minter, who plays Yvonne.
Yes,
absolutely.
She was great too.
She was great. Yeah, I love that crew. And we, the conventions, and that's the other thing. Thank you guys, because the conventions, it's so much fun to meet the fans. It's so much fun to meet other people in the franchise, but it's so much fun to have reunions. Like because otherwise we wouldn't get to see each other. I'm on the East Coast. I mean, a lot of them are on the West Coast. Lisa and Kelly Jo and Danny and stuff. But and Whit. Yep. I mean, actually, Erica and I think are the only ones on the East Coast from number 5. So it's the reunions are wonderful because we get to all hang out. We have fun. So thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, thank you. Like, honestly, I think I speak for everybody in the horror community. We're a giant family and we love this. And obviously you are a part of that horror family. And I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you. Like, thank you for the passion you brought, not only to the character Amanda Krueger, but to the franchise, to the horror community. Like that means a lot to all of us. Like, it really does. And like, just, from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of all their heart, from the bottom of my co-host hearts who could not be here, just thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And
I appreciate it.
Of course. Last question. This is the question that my co-host normally answers, but she's doing her mom duties. So unfortunately she cannot be here. What's your favorite scary movie?
My favorite scary movie. Well, my favorite scary movie is different than what I found scariest. So let's see.
You could even give us
changed. Both. Okay. Well, the one that scared me the most, like just terrified me for such a long time, was Black Christmas, the original Black Christmas.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Yeah, and what year did it come out? I don't know how old I was. I was young, and I saw it, and it was like, it terrified me. It terrified me, and and I think, wasn't that the very first? It certainly was the first I'd ever seen, and I think it might have been the first, he's in the attic thing, because I mean, it was just it's just so creepy, and having the person up in the attic. But so that was the scariest for me. My favorite Well, what I enjoyed the most, and this wasn't really actually a horror film, so I'm skirting that, is Squid Games. That's the most recent. I just loved, I
That's a
loved the
great show.
series. I
Yeah.
loved it. I really, really did. And it's funny because I love getting scared. I love spooky. Like what I will tell you is all through, when I wasn't watching Elm Street before I really got into really understanding and appreciating and loving the Elm Street franchise was I have always loved scary, spooky movies. So I'm 60, so I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and we had all like on TV, we would be like the trilogy of terror and these a lot of these psychological things, and they would be, haunting and creepy, but it wasn't gore. Like you wouldn't see like somebody with a knife slashing somebody, but it would be like the creepiest, hauntingest thing, like
Yeah.
and so it was a lot of psychological stuff. So that scary movies I loved spooky things, and I also lived in Japan as a little girl, and so for 4 years, from age 5 to age 9, and I was told so many scary Japanese ghost stories, and they're another whole realm of scary, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's just haunting and creepy, and oftentimes you'd be like a beautiful a lady, you'd see this gorgeous lady, with a long hair, and then just painfully slowly she starts to turn, turn. You don't know what you're going to see, and then it's this beautiful hair and a flower, and then it's suddenly some wicked horrible face, when she actually turns around, and just so many unexpected and creepy things. So I was haunted by a lot of those, but so when my sons told me about Squid Game, they said, oh, it's pretty gory, and I was like, in the first I watched the first episode, and all that killing, everybody shot, when they're running towards that creepy doll. What was that little? What was the little song she would sing? I can't even remember.
I
But
can't remember offhand.
yeah, but
It was
stop
weird.
go or red go, stop go, right?
I think so. I
Wasn't
think it
it?
was the stop
Yeah,
go thing.
stop go thing. Anyway, but the characters, holy crap, they did such a good job developing those characters and the storyline that it just sucks you in, and I just love the whole story. And Korean, and the same with their not vampire, zombie movies, like The Train to Bhutan and stuff. Like they
Hmm.
they really do a nice job with the character and storyline, which is what draws me in. Because if it's just a bunch of gore, I'm sorry, I don't care how diehard a fan you are. That's not my thing. I'm just not into just a bunch of like that's like okay, whatever. It just doesn't do anything for me. But the stories that pull you in, where you start to care about, you have to care about something. That's my thing. I have to care
Sure.
about the characters. Then it matters to me what happens to them. So if they're being chased or something scary is coming after them, it matters, and I believe in them, and I follow with them because I care about them. But if it's just some like whatever stupid nasty people, then who cares? It's like, okay, go ahead, just kill them. I don't need to watch. You can just go kill all those people. Um, but yeah, that as but then as far as a movie, scariest movie. Well, I watched when I was a little kid. Well, when I was in high school, I watched Cronenberg's uh, Brood. Was it called
Yeah.
The Brood? Wasn't it The Brood? And we loved that. My friends and I in high school loved it so much that our little gang, we called ourselves The Brood.
That's
And I think
amazing.
yeah, I think in our yearbook that's what it was. Like each of us in our little, in our graduation, we'd have like a member of the Brood. So you knew which one. When you look through the yearbook, you'd know who was part of the Brood from Stephen Cronenberg. So those are my tops, I guess.
That's awesome. Like this is one of the things I love the most about all these interviews. I always get different answers, and it's always awesome. It's like I don't think I've ever gotten the same thing twice, except for
Oh,
maybe The Exorcist.
okay, yeah.
But I love that. Like I love that. And you mentioned Cronenberg, which is just like yes. So
Yeah.
no,
But Carrie too. I mean, there were a lot that I loved. I mean, we did things right in the 80s. I mean, in some ways very corny. Some things you look back on and you're like, "Oh my God." But other things you look back and you're like, "Wow." I will say,
70s and the 80s, those are like the best time for horror movies. Like everybody knows that mine's Halloween, and you talk about the lack of gore. Halloween is the definition of that because you never really see blood.
right,
Like never. You hear things, and then just the way Carpenter was just so masterful with sounds and everything else.
right.
Like it's amazing, and like a lot of people say, it's what made the slasher what it is. And but
Right.
I like that. Like there are times where I love gore. Like I could
Yeah.
watch the Saw franchise, I could watch the Hostel franchise, and I enjoy it just fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, like going back to the more simpler times, like just it's so amazing. Like it's hard to explain. Like we're just now starting to get back into the slasher genre again. You know, they're bringing
Right.
it back. We all know Wes Craven brought life back to it with Scream,
Yeah.
and the fact that we had a Scream movie this year, we had a Halloween movie last year, we're about to get another Scream movie, we're about to get another Halloween movie. Like now we need another Freddy.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. I think everyone's in agreement with that, including the Wes Craven estate. So it'll just be interesting to see who they end up getting to helmet and what direction they go. You know, and I'm sure they'll do it justice. I would think so.
I
I
agree.
think it's in better. I think it's in better hands that the fact that it is with the Craven, estate rather than a New Line. Not to put down New Line in any way, and Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, because they're who I get my residuals from. So I'm very grateful to them. But but no one can love it or be as respectful to it as the family. So I would think. But
Exactly.
and then in terms of I know we're going like way over, but you can
I
cut
don't
this all.
mind if you don't.
No, you can cut this all out. But
No way.
but the whole idea of, like growing up, did you have the same story? I don't know, but like I just remember like the classic story in Girl Scouts or camping or anything was always that guy, there's something that's coming after you and it's scraping on the top of the car. Is
Oh,
that
that urban legend type
urban
thing.
legend thing? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
where it's like
I just
you
remember
hear the
like
scraping.
you hear the scraping on the top. Actually don't even remember how that ends. Does he come out and murder you, or does it turn out to be a tree? I think it is some guy. I don't know. But
So,
I grew up with Sasquatch. We had like there was all the Sasquatch sightings. There was always
oh yeah,
we had the abominable snowman. Which
Chupacabra, like just
yeah,
all those
all
tales
that
that
kind
you
of
always
stuff.
hear.
Yeah, and then just all the spooky, haunty stories. And anyway, but okay, no, we're
No,
going
no,
on too long.
urban legends are like some of my favorite stuff. Like the one I actually just watched Urban Legends, the movie the other day, because like Robert Englund, and I was like, I forget he's in this, and like he's awesome because he's talking about urban legends. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, that one I remember because the one of the urban legends was it's like a guy and a girl, they go park out in the middle of nowhere and they're hanging out, and then the guy goes out to investigate a strange noise. And
Right.
then a little bit later, the girl hears like scraping on the
Scraping.
top of the car, and she freaks out. And she like tries taking off when the guy's actually like hung by a tree and his
That's what
body's
it is.
there and his like feet are
Exactly.
on there. And then she like takes off. The guy dies. And then the killer's there too.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Oh my
love
God.
things like
Right.
that. Like urban
Yeah.
legends are amazing. Like those
They are.
old, just
And you know what else was? Now that I think of it, I think Carrie was was it required reading? I think we read it like in school. I think it was like actually an assigned book.
I mean, it's a great book.
It was a great
Honestly,
book.
like
I mean, I
taking away
definitely.
that it's horror
I was in.
related, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was in elementary school when I read it, and I think. I mean, maybe I just read it on my own. Back in the day, we actually used to read books, folks. Do you remember? It's this thing it's in
It's true.
paper, and you turn pages,
I got
and
a few.
you have to look at words. It's a thing called book.
Then when
Yeah.
you checked it out in the library, if he didn't go take it back, he got those late fees. Some people spent years and years on those late
Remember with
fees.
those late fees? But yeah, we read that. We also read and then what was the other thing you had said? It just triggered something. I remember reading Carrie and also in school something else with urban legends and being scared, but I don't know. We could talk forever and ever about spooky stuff and all kinds of haunty stuff, but
Oh yeah.
I will. Okay, all right, fine. I'm going to tell you one more thing. So when I was living in Japan, so this was when I was in second grade. So what are you? 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, something like that. Years old.
In second
And
grade,
but
I think you're around
yeah,
like I think like 6, 7-ish around there. Yeah,
yeah,
give or
something
take.
like that. And by this point, I spoke Japanese fluently. I didn't when I moved there, but we were just thrown in a Japanese school, and I was the only foreigner in my school, and my sister was the only foreigner in her school. Um, and but by this point, I could speak Japanese, and there was this hallway. So when you come into your school, you take off your shoes. There's these big things. Everybody comes in, you take off your shoes, put them in the cubby, and you take out your inside shoes. They're your little
Yeah.
slippers, your little white shoes. And we would switch. And then my classroom was on the second story, on the second stairs. And it was a big staircase, and the whole school was this big wooden school. It was made of wood. This was in the
Oh
60s.
wow.
And when you'd come up to the second stair landing, there was it was the back was blocked off by a bookshelf, like these big bookshelves, and it was always dark and it was always cold and it was always creepy on that floor. And if you ever were late for class and you were by yourself, you just would like kind of run through it, like you'd have to just run past until you came down to the classroom hallways. It was just something very creepy and spooky about it. And what it turns out is behind why they have bookshelves in the middle of a hallway is in back of it was what's called a dumbwaiter. I don't know if they call that anymore. That sounds like it's a pretty un-PC thing to say probably in these days, but that's what they were called. And it's like an elevator shaft for things. Like a person doesn't go in it. It comes up and you put trays of food in, and then you press the button and it goes down. So it's like a little small elevator that you put things in. So it was called a dumbwaiter. Yeah. And the story goes that a kid, because in Japan, you take turns serving the lunch to everybody else, and you take your lunch in your tray and you take it back up to your classroom. You sit at your desk and you eat there, and then you take it back down and you clean up the desks, and everyone cleans the classroom. But anyway, so they had this, apparently back in the day, they had this dumbwaiter. So back in the day, being in the 50s probably, and apparently some kid went in, was putting the tray in, and some kid knocked into him and something happened, and the story goes that the doors closed and chopped off his head. I mean, I don't know if it's strong enough, but I don't know. That's what the story is. And the kid died there, and now everyone believes it's haunted by his ghost. And even the teachers, like everyone's just so creeped out by it that they just have it hidden behind the bookshelves. And so, oh my God, you could just imagine all the ghost stories that people tell about that darn thing. And there was a really creepy vibe, and do I believe in ghosts? Yeah, I've seen them. So I do actually believe in them. Definitely. But even if you don't, like, even if you didn't believe in ghosts, like with enough people saying a creepy thing about a room, it's going to give it a creepy vibe because, right? Like everyone says, ooh, and if it's a dark, creepy room, and even if you didn't believe in ghosts, but you knew that somebody died there, it doesn't make it for a happy little landing. So anyway, but so there were terrifying stories told out there. And when you're in Japan, when you're punished back in the 60s, it depends on the teacher, but because I was an American and we had bombed them in Hiroshima like 20 years prior to when I was there,
they're kind of hostile.
A lot of people did not like this weird American kid. Some people were fascinated by me because I was like this oddity, but others hated me because so I know what it's like to be like prejudiced against and hated, But anyway, so I had this one teacher who was not very fond of me, and would, for punishment, she'd make me stand in the hallway just outside the classroom, and I had to hold a bucket in each hand that she filled to the top with water. Oh, and wow. I couldn't put them down for an hour. I had to stand there holding them. I couldn't spill the water. I couldn't spill a drop of water, and I'd just be standing there holding it. But for me, it wasn't so much the pain of holding them, which got really intense, but it's like, holy shit, I can see that fucking hallway, And those weren't the words I was using because I was a little girl, but that hallway, and the cold air would start coming because our classroom was diagonal from that creepy hallway. It was terrible. I've been so traumatized. But anyway, all right. So
that is awesome. But yeah, there we go, everybody. Like, this has honestly been one of my favorite interviews. Like, this has been awesome. Like, I thank you for willing to take this much time. Like, I know when we originally talked, I was like, we'll do it this much because I know how busy you are. But I appreciate this. Like, I'm sure everybody else is going to appreciate this as well. Thank you so much for actually getting in and getting to the meat and potatoes of everything. Like, this, honestly, like, I'm smiling, and I don't smile often, but I love it. But there you go, everybody. I hope you have all enjoyed this interview. I know I have. Again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of all of our. Oh, man, she's busting out the glove again. I'm gonna have to go get mine. Mine's like up there somewhere. Yes. But thank you. And yes, the moment that book is ready, please, for the love of gods, let me know, because I will share it on here. I will review it. Like, if I could get an advance copy, like, I will go nuts on it. Like, I definitely will.
All right, you got a deal. So it's the Kruegers,
and we will get you back on here as well.
All right. Well, it's been great chatting with you, Jeff. It's been great meeting you.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. There you go, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this interview for the Horror Feed, for Beth and Rachel, and my editor. I'm Jeff. So long. Peace and bell bottoms.